Hello Yu-Gi-Oh players and welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh! And Business Casual. I am your host, the RJB0. Today I want to talk to you guys about the two big rule changes that have been announced for the OCG. I will be saving the new monster information for another time when I have better information, and I also want to do this video in one take because I honestly don't have the time or energy to do all the work I have to do tonight anyway. So I don't want to spend the entire evening doing Yu-Gi-Oh! Videos. But I do want to weigh in on this discussion because I feel like there's been a lot of really emotional response to a lot of these things, which is never a good thing in the world of analysis of any sort. So I want to discuss with you guys what my thoughts are on the new rules. And those two new rules, which we do not know yet when they are being implemented. But those two rules are, first, the player who goes first in the OCG now will not be allowed to draw for turn, which means they are starting with 5 cards. The player 2 will start with 6 cards. They will draw for turn, so they'll have their 5 cards and then draw into 6 cards. That was somewhat in confusion earlier. But player 1 will not be able to draw the card during their first turn. The second rule is that field spells no longer knock each other out. Each player is allowed to have one field spell on their side of the field at a time. So your field spells will knock out your field spells, but your opponent's field spells won't. So first off, let's talk about the going first rule. Great. That's pretty much my only response. Because in the past, going first has been, or right now, going first is a colossal advantage, especially in a game where you're going to be facing a lot of decks of equally high power, where setup is such a big deal, where if you're going first and you get the same cards and everything except being able to attack as the person who's going second, it's kind of a massive advantage in the current game. So I'm glad that this rule is coming into effect in the OCG. I hope we see it in the TCG because as much as people are going to complain about this, people who like the game as it is now, especially the people who have this weird thing against the game becoming any more like Magic, like that's people's big response to the possibility of set rotation is they don't want the game to be more like Magic, and that's the same response people are having to this. I honestly don't give a damn. Magic isn't a big factor in my life, and I don't care whether or not Yu-Gi-Oh! Looks more or less like Magic. I just like playing Yu-Gi-Oh! But this is a way that we can make Yu-Gi-Oh! More balanced and make it so that you don't really have die roll formats anymore. It actually takes some thought as to whether you want to go first or go second in a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's another element now to deck testing, is deciding whether if you get the die roll, which is better for you, which you want to have happen. So that's my response to the first new rule, the one about not drawing on your first turn. The second new rule I like a little bit less, and the reason is because first off, I like my game mechanics to stay the same. I like it when a certain kind of card does a certain kind of thing, and if they change that, I'd rather they introduced a new kind of card or banned all the old kind of cards than to just kind of arbitrarily change how the rules of how that card works. And I actually like the mechanic of the field spell, because the way field spells are supposed to work is they apply to both players' field, and there can only be one on the board at a time, which means that the really big field spells, the really powerful field spells, can be countered more easily. Things like Grand Spellbook Tower, or Harpy's Hunting Ground, or Gates of Dark Worlds, Necro Valley. With this new rule, Seal of Orichalcos is essentially invincible. Unless you want to burn 2 MSTs or an MST and a Gorilla or something like that. So if you have Seal of Orichalcos, it's basically guaranteed to stick around. So I don't like that this rule essentially makes Closed Forest kind of a moot point. Like, Closed Forest is supposed to be the anti-field spell thing. And you play the Closed Forest, it knocks out their field spell, and now they have to work to put another field spell on the board. Now, Closed Forest only does something if your opponent doesn't already have a field spell on the board, which kind of sucks pretty majorly, in my opinion. So while the field spell wars were kind of obnoxious for the decks that really involve field spells, and I suppose this improves Garden Beat to a degree, I don't really like that particular rule. I suppose it isn't necessarily a logical point of view, but it's my point of view. So that is my response to the 2 new rule changes. I'd like to hear from you guys about your responses, but meanwhile, if you liked this video, please hit that thumbs up button. If you didn't, let me know why in the comment section below. And of course, subscribe for more decks, discussion, analysis, and general Yu-Gi-Oh! Shenanigans. Meanwhile, I'm your host, the RJB0. Thank you for watching Yu-Gi-Oh! and Business Casual. I got a jet. See you guys.